This is the Mountaineer Moment, your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball. From pregame to postgame coverage and breaking news, we've got you covered. Let's go. All right, Mountaineer fans, welcome to another episode of Mountaineer Moment, episode number 40 here of this podcast. And the West Virginia Mountaineers fall on the road in Provo to the BYU Cougars by a final score of 38-24. Late night game on the East Coast, kicked off at 10:30, ended right after 2 a.m. on the East Coast, and that's what I'm recording right now. So, wow. 2 a.m., and the Mountaineers fresh off a 14-point loss to BYU. And so this episode just going to break that down, what you saw, what you maybe liked, what you didn't like, what was ugly. And there'll be a few episodes breaking down this one. But yeah, you hate to go into a game expecting your team to lose, right? Like that's never a good feeling. But the 23rd ranked team in the country, Mountaineers, obviously dealing with a lot, and don't want injuries to be the first thing you say with that. But just dealing with a lot. I mean, redshirt freshman quarterback Khalil Wilkins getting his first ever collegiate start, and to do so on the road against a very talented BYU defense, BYU team in general. It's a tall task, and you didn't know even what you had at the running back situation coming in, and we'll talk about that as well. You saw Ty Edwards for 2 carries and 2 yards, and Dior Hubbard obviously got a lot of carries, but Khalil Wilkins really was the focal point of this offense on the ground as well. He had 23 carries for 89 yards and found a touchdown. We'll talk about his performance in more detail, later this week. But again, this is, initial as it gets for a reaction, and it's 2:00 in the morning. But this game, Mountaineers went down, quickly. BYU jumped out to a 14-0 lead, and lots of points scored in the second quarter of this one. For BYU to take a 28-10 lead into the half, and there were a few kind of, I guess you could say, in both halves, just some back-breaking plays. Khalil Wilkins. BYU missed a field goal on their first drive. Khalil Wilkins on the Mountaineers' second drive throws a pick that allows the BYU to run it in for their first touchdown of the game. The first quarter alone, and I thought it was great for the ESPN broadcast to point this out. The first quarter alone, West Virginia ran 23 plays, and 12 of those were quarterback runs. 12 quarterback runs in the first quarter, again, against a talented defense. And so Khalil Wilkins undoubtedly soar. But there were some good things, you liked that you saw from him, and there were some bad elements as well, but that was to be expected. Guy making his first start against a talented team. Defense got burned a lot through, by Bear Bachmeier, going 18 for 25, 351 yards. They early and often they were looking to take shots, especially on literally first downs of drives, first play of drives, taking shots and finding success doing that. Lots of deep passes. Chase Robertson, 85. He had 4 catches for 161 yards, and somehow none of those were touchdowns. An 85-yard play when he just burned, I think it was Coates just burned him on the first play of a drive and, didn't score. But then the very next play, a 5-yard touchdown for L.J. Martin. So, even in that first half, Mountaineers are down 14-3. You pin BYU back at their own 11, and it takes them 2 plays to go 89 yards. And next thing you know, you're down 21-3. And then West Virginia punts again. And then Fred Perry made one of the the most incredible plays you can see from one individual defender in a play. BYU's pinned back after West Virginia, had to punt again with about 2.5 minutes left in the first half, down 21-3, and you're like, oh my goodness, this is getting ugly. And Fred Perry just read it, as an option play. Bear flicked it to the running back, and Fred Perry got his hand on that, so batted it down, and then was able to fall on it for the recovery at the BYU 3-yard line. And Hubbard was able to score on that first and goal. So you make it 21-10, and then the defense obviously just couldn't get a stop. And so, you go from 21-10 at half to down 28-10 at half because BYU scored with 19 seconds left. And, it just hurt. And there were just plays, again, that were backbreaking that just really hurt you in this one. And BYU tried to help you out, right? 3 turnovers. Mountaineers scored 14 points off those turnovers. Again, including the one with Fred Perry just making a play. All right, that wasn't team defense. That was an individual making a heck of a play. And, then coming out of the second half, Bear had, I mentioned he had 351 yards passing. Well, he had 249 at the half. Just doing whatever he wanted to do. And then BYU comes out, they get the ball first, put a drive together, long drive, and then it looks like they're going to take a field goal, 53 yards. They do a fake, picks up 11. I think they needed 6. And then they ended up converting on a field goal. But Mountaineers didn't touch the ball in the second half until there was 6 and change, 6:45 or so to go in the third quarter in that second half. So long drive that made it 31-10, and just frustrating. And then again, so a fake field goal, and then the Mountaineers' ensuing drive, you have that pass by Khalil Wilkins into double coverage where Cam Vaughn should have and could have caught that ball. He doesn't inside the BYU 10, and a deep pass, and then he bobbles it right into the hands of a BYU defender for an interception. I mean, just that's the point where probably, if you stayed up late, if you were a Mountaineer fan, you stayed up late, that might have been the point where you're like, all right, I've seen enough. I'm turning this off. 31-10, and that happens. And, then BYU gives it back to you. They fumble on their very next drive, and then that's the drive where Khalil Wilkins is able to run in for a touchdown to make it 31-17 and so on. And so, both teams got one more touchdown in the, late in the game. But just frustrating. It wasn't a game again where you lost by 30 plus, so I guess that's a plus, but it's even hard to describe this one because 38-24, is that really indicative of how close this game was? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, there was never a point where you're like, BYU's, we're threatening them here. There was never a point. They were certainly in control the whole game. There was a point, I guess it would have been, early fourth quarter, Mountaineers down 14 and have an opportunity to get off the field, 3rd and 10 or 12 or something, and they just couldn't. BYU even converted on lots of 4th and shorts in this one. I'm not sure what they finished on the day on 4th down, but 4 for 4 on 4th down. We saw at Utah. Remember what Utah did on 3rd downs last week, but BYU was efficient on 4th down, and they were 4th and short gains, but just, again, backbreaking. You have a chance to get off the field. You have a chance to give your offense the ball back, who's shown a little bit of a sign of life on some drives, and, you just couldn't. BYU passed for 351 yards. 18 for 25 for Bear, and the rushing game was pretty even. Again, you mentioned Khalil Wilkins, 23 carries. He'll need a nice bath for his first career start. 47 carries as a team for 156 yards, nearly identical for BYU. 42 for 165. 4 touchdowns on the ground for them. LJ Martin had a good game as expected. 21 carries, 90 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I mean, You even saw Scotty Fox check in once in this first half when Khalil went down just for a couple plays and had a nice run himself. And then in garbage time, he got the Mountaineers' last touchdown. A really nice pass, really nice ball to Cam Vaughn for 29 yards for Scotty Fox's first passing touchdown as a Mountaineer. So, again, 38-24 final. That's kind of just a quick little summary, but we'll get into some specific topics here. Stuttering, I don't know if it's because it's almost 2:30, but some specific topics here to round out this episode 40 of Mountaineer Moment. Just as a reminder, though, if you are watching or listening on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you are at, make sure you subscribe. Just hit the 100 mark of subscriptions on this young podcast. It's been around just over a month, so thrilled for that. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. Everything. It's certainly meaningful to me. This is a dream come true to be covering the Mountaineers in this way and to start building this community slowly but surely, brick by brick. We're building something here, and the Mountaineer Moment is here to stay. I can assure you of that. All right. So, we're not recording at 2 a.m. for nothing, right? We're committed to this, and just a little plug there. So, some specifics here. Khalil Wilkins. Ran it a lot. Obviously, redshirt freshman. We knew he was going to run it a lot. Maybe not as often as he did. Did I expect that? There were lots of, several of those runs were scrambles when he didn't like his first read and said, I'm going to tuck it and run. And, he made some plays with his legs. And I do think, which was an encouraging sign, I do think overall, and the announcers on ESPN said it too, overall, he grew in his comfort level. You could just tell from first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, third. He just continued to look comfortable. And that first interception he threw on a hitch route, I think intended for Fox, was just, it was a terrible throw, terrible decision. Corner read it, and a little 6-7 yard turnaround, and corner just jumped on it and picked it off and almost took it for a touchdown before Wilkins got to him, and then they ended up scoring after that. But just a really bad throw, really bad decision. And that second interception to Vaughn, catchable ball, and just a fluke, weird play, like something you really don't see, off his hands and right into another defender's, right into a defender's hands for a pick. So that wasn't on him. There were certainly some errant throws that you saw from Wilkins. Again, he wasn't efficient by any means. 7 for 15, just 81 yards. But again, Cam Vaughn, didn't help him out. His receivers, didn't help him out a ton. The 2 interceptions, one was completely his fault, and one was not his fault at all. So, this quarterback situation, though, what this game tells me, and Scotty Fox, when he got time, and again, it was especially late, meaningless time, but 3 for 3, 54 yards for him, and again, a strike to Cam Vaughn, who finally got a one-on-one coverage with a minute and a half left and scored a touchdown on it. But 6 games left. You're entering into a bye week after this loss in Provo, and why not start Khalil Wilkins or Scotty Fox next game, and the rest of the season for that matter? Nico's not here. Jalen Henderson obviously did not go tonight, wasn't able to with injury, and Max Brown. Why not go with these young guys, these 2 freshmen, and just see what they can do? And there's going to be growing pains. There's going to be some, man, what the heck was that? There's going to be freshman mistakes, if you can say it that way, and you just got to live with it. And right now we're living as a 2-4 football team who's 0-3 in conference. And there's some games coming up that are more winnable than a game at BYU was. So, there's some opportunities here for Khalil or Scotty Fox to come out and play ball. I think what you do love from Khalil Wilkins, 23 carries. He was tough, made some really physical runs. And again, I don't know that 23 carries running as hard as he did is sustainable for a starting quarterback throughout a whole season. But it's also like he was dealing with the hand that he was dealt, right? The cards that he was dealt. Like, this was not a situation that he was thrown into where it was like, yeah, we're gonna throw it a bunch. One, because of his inexperience, but two, because of what this offense is designed to do, and three, because of this offensive line and their struggle to block in the passing attack. And so he tucked it and ran ran really, really hard, played really, really hard. And you can appreciate that. You can appreciate that because this is not the easiest defense he's going to face. And again, if he starts the remainder of the year, if that happens, or again, if he and Scotty Fox kind of split it from here on out, like, I don't know exactly what Rich Rod's thinking at this moment. Rich Rod might not know what he's thinking at this moment. But if those are your two guys, and I want that to be the case, these two. I do. And I've said it before. We've talked plenty about quarterbacks lately. But if there's any possibility one of these guys or both of these guys are in serious consideration for your starting job in 2026, let's play them now. Let's see what they got. Let's go. I'm all for it. And there was a possibility. Certainly, I didn't expect it, but there was a possibility that we were going to watch tonight's game and say, man, Khalil Wilkins just isn't. He's just not there. He's not ready. This is embarrassing. He should not be out there. This is, you can't play him. That was a possibility coming into this game. And I didn't end this game. Again, he had struggles. But you didn't watch this game and at the end say, I don't want to see Khalil Wilkins on the field anymore. I didn't. Right? I didn't watch this game in that regard. I didn't watch Scotty Fox come out for a couple plays, and I didn't say, I don't want Scotty Fox to be out here anymore. And while that's not like the standard or whatever, but like we're a 2-4 football team, and the upperclassmen quarterbacks, veteran QBs, haven't done anything better than what we just saw from Khalil Wilkins. I mean, you move the ball a little bit, right? He did make a few nice throws in the second half. Again, just 7 completions for Wilkins, but there was some things that were encouraging. And again, I think ultimately what was encouraging is he looked better late in the game than he did early in the game, especially in the pass, as far as throwing the football. Some errant throws, yep, I get that. That's going to happen. Some mistakes, yep, I get that. That's going to happen. But there's no reason Khalil Wilkins shouldn't be the guy moving forward. And again, if it's not him, it's Scotty Fox for me. So that's my brief, maybe brief, depends how you're, depends what you think on the other side of this, but brief kind of thoughts on Khalil Wilkins. Of course, there'll be more coming into the bye week and beyond, but that's the thought there. Secondly, another specific thing, like this pass defense was just not good. Again, mentioned Coates getting burned for an 89-yard pass or 80-something yard pass, and just struggled. Bear was doing what he wanted, taking shots downfield and just burning guys. And there were often guys just kind of, even on short or intermediate passes, just guys kind of finding a little hole and finding the ball. And BYU has some really fast receivers, so they were racking up a lot of yak. Like, they were getting some yards after catch early and often throughout this game, and it was a struggle. Mountaineers did get some pressure on Bear. He's a big, tough, physical guy who took some hits and shook him right off. But, to me, more notably tonight was the pass defense and their struggles because, you gave up just 3.9 yards per carry. Bear ran it 12 times for 43 yards. LJ 21 times for 90 yards. But then again, there's, you had two guys, Chase Roberts and Parker Kingston, 8 catches combined for, 272 yards. 8 catches for 272 yards. So one of them averaged 40 yards a catch, and the other averaged 28 yards a catch. Just getting it done on a few catches and a lot of yards. And so that shows you just explosive play after explosive play that this defense simply didn't have an answer for. And that was the story in this one. It wasn't LJ Martin, although he had a good game, and got it done, and you needed 3 yards from him, he'd get 4. You needed a 4th and 1 converted, he would get it done. Same with Bear. But the story in this one, from a defensive perspective, was just how many times you were giving up big, long, explosive plays, and he didn't have an answer for it. Another point of conversation we've talked about already, just touched on it, but Ty Edwards, he was back, got 2 carries. Is that because and I'm sure Rich Rod's getting asked about it right now, post game, right? That I didn't wait to record an episode because I'm going to record this and I'm going to go to bed. But was Ty Edwards is he more hurt than he can only take 2 carries a game? What was that? Or is it because you're trying to get his legs back under him because he's been out for a couple weeks? But I mean, his first game of the season getting carries against Pitt, he had 25 of them, right? Had 140 yards. I don't know. I don't. If he's healthy enough to play and get a considerable amount of carries, why didn't he? Because that would help Khalil Wilkins in this offense a good bit. I'm pretty confident of that. We already talked about the back-breaking plays, right? The fake field goal. Cam Vaughn, had a drop and it turned into an interception inside BYU territory, inside their own 10. Yeah, BYU took over. Mountaineers, even on a drive late down, big, were stuffed at the goal line, which wasn't pretty, and then you got to stop, and then the ensuing drive, that was the Scotty Fox touchdown for the Mountaineers' last possession, but just plays that really hurt you. But there were some good things. Fred Perry, oh my goodness, what a play. Chase Wilson had a great game and an interception, a lot of tackles. And aside from BYU's turnovers, again, some of which, self-inflicted, three turnovers for them. But aside from that, they did a lot of what they wanted to do. Their offense, I guess, wasn't as perfect, if you can say it that way, as far as third down conversions and just punching it in the end zone time after time after time. They weren't as good at as Utah was last week against West Virginia at home. But, man, they did a lot of what they wanted to do, and it was through the air on explosive play after explosive play that they beat you. And, again, final score 38-24. Do with that what you will. Mountaineers actually outscored BYU in the second half 14-10. Do with that information what you will. But there were some encouraging things. Mountaineers picked up 18 first downs. BYU had 23. Part of that's because they had so many yards on some big, huge plays, and that only counts as one first down. But total yards, BYU 516 to 291 for West Virginia. And a lot of BYU penalties. They had 10. West Virginia had 3. Time possession was closer than some games we've seen, 32 for BYU and about 28 for the Mountaineers. So, Chase Wilson had 11 tackles, including 5 solo. But it was the explosive plays that made the difference in this one. And, for the majority of this game, you were so one-dimensional. And so it's almost, and I'll take it with a grain of salt because I'm saying almost, but it's almost impressive the fact that West Virginia was able to run the ball somewhat effectively. Somewhat. Again, just 3.3 yards per carry, but, Khalil Wilkins did some good things with his legs. Scotty Fox, in his one rush attempt, picked up a 23-yard gain. Dior Hubbard did some okay things, and again, a touchdown for him on the ground. He scored 2 touchdowns on the ground. But you did that against a stout BYU defense who knew that's what you wanted to do, who knew that was what you had to do because of the inexperience and the unknown relating to Khalil Wilkins and his arm. So you ran it okay. But what this game does, and again, I don't think we're rolling in there expecting to win. We're expecting some adversity, and, maybe your score prediction was that it was going to be the Mountaineers are going to lose by 28. Maybe you had them, keeping it a 2-touchdown game like it was at the end. Or maybe you had them keeping it closer, but regardless, there are some things you can take away from this one. And I think it does start with Khalil Wilkins and say, okay, kid played hard. Kid made mistakes. Kid seemed to get more comfortable and play a little better. And coming out of the bye week, let's let him go again. Let's let him go again because we saw his comfort grow just over the course of a 3.5-hour football game, right? Like he grew before our eyes. Believe it or not, he did. He grew. And playing him more and more, same with Scotty Fox, is just going to allow them opportunities to get better, to get comfortable, and to have an impact. So I think that's a major takeaway. You know, a lot of times we're more frustrated, and I don't know if this is true at all. I don't know if I believe this at all. But like a lot of times we're more frustrated, obviously this season with the offense than the defense. But there were some things to be frustrated with the defense tonight, specifically the explosive plays. And you know, you watch that and you're more frustrated with them rather than the offense, who did some frustrating things. But it's also, you know, you might have a little more sympathy, a little more understanding because it's a redshirt freshman, you know, road start, first ever start. So anyway, that's just, you know, this has just been an initial reaction to the Mountaineers' loss against BYU, and as they fall to 2-4 and they head into the bye week, you know, Friday night game, you get even a little bit of extra time before, you know, that we be getting home Morgantown real early, I'm sure, on Saturday morning, but there are some things you can take away in a positive regard heading into the bye week and beyond. Get some guys healthy, and again, I let these freshman quarterbacks play. Let them play. See what happens. Let's go try and win some games, right? Like, you know, let's just go try and win some games, because this one we didn't mark this one as a win. You know, preseason, you didn't mark this one as a win. And you certainly didn't, given the circumstances that the Mountaineers have been dealt with injuries and other things going on, and just the way this season has played out so far. But you get a little break, you get a little time to regroup, and we'll have plenty of things to talk about here on Mountaineer Moment, so don't go anywhere. But, over the next several days, look for more episodes coming. Maybe, just maybe, we will, during the bye week, talk about this Mountaineer basketball team. So you'll be able to hear my thoughts for the first time ever here on Mountaineer Moment, talking about the basketball team. We're 40 episodes in, and it's been a lot of football so far, but maybe during the bye week we'll jump in just a little bit to this Mountaineer basketball team led by Coach Ross Hodge in his first year, and talk about that. But be on the lookout for that. Be on the lookout for football coverage, of course, as well. And we'll see you next time. Let's go Mountaineers.